We've all heard people say it. Maple guitars just don't sound good. They've got no bass, they're super thin, and they're really bright sounding. Well, I'm going to prove to you that that's not true with this guitar. All right, some of the specifics about this guitar. This is what is called my Grand Session model, which is my largest body size. It has a 16¼ inch lower bout, and it's 5 inches deep. So she's a big boy. She is kind of what I would say is similar to a dreadnought guitar or even a small jumbo. And when customers come to me, like this particular customer came to me and said, hey, I want a maple guitar first and foremost, and I want to have a large body size. That's obviously what we land on as one of my Grand Sessions. So let's talk about that maple first. The maple on this guitar is kind of the favorite piece of maple that I've ever built a guitar out of. The figuring that you see on here is different than what you typically see, and it's what's called Birdseye Maple, which is just a term used to describe the type of figuring that's in it. And it has this amazing little dots all over it, and those are what's called the bird's eyes. But then on top of that, it has this really awesome quilting, which is that kind of more waviness that you see inside the grain. And it's just a stunning piece. And that was the big kind of main criteria that this client asked me for. He said, hey, I really want to have a large guitar, and I want to have Birdseye Maple for the back and sides. And as him and I kind of discussed, okay, well, what other things can we do to the guitar to make it kind of not have that mapley sound that we all associate with factory-made guitars? The first thing that I recommend is that we maybe use Western Red Cedar for the soundboard. And that's exactly what this guitar has on it. Just really, really beautiful piece of wood. And I actually have like a 6-inch billet of this. So I have built like 3 or 4 guitars out of this exact piece of wood. So I know it really well. I know how to voice it really well. And I think visually speaking, it's just absolutely stunning how it pairs really, really well with the maple. And you have all these kind of different tones of tans and browns on the guitar. And aesthetically, I just think it's absolutely beautiful. But most importantly, the Western Red Cedar is chosen because it really does an amazing job of kind of making up for a lot of the deficits that maple tends to have sonically. Western Red Cedar is really, really warm, and it reacts really, really well to a light touch. It has this bell-like characteristic to it that I tend to not find on spruce guitars. It's not really in its tap tone. It's kind of in how the note kind of blossoms when you strum on a guitar that has a Western Red Cedar top. And it's really, really gratifying to play if you're not somebody with a heavy right hand. If you're somebody who's banging on the guitar really, really hard, I don't recommend that you use Western Red Cedar because Western Red Cedar has a really low headroom on it as opposed to Sitka spruce or even Adirondack spruce, which has a very, very high headroom. So that's why we chose Western Red Cedar on this guitar, because I just knew right out of the box that putting Western Red Cedar on a maple back and sided guitar is going to really do a good job of kind of being a really well-rounded sound. The guitar also has a Brazilian rosewood bridge, which is something that I include on pretty much all of my guitars, but even more so specifically on this guitar. I never would have built it without a Brazilian rosewood bridge because Brazilian rosewood is incredibly light and it's also incredibly sonically responsive. And it's just one more thing that we can do to let this guitar have a lot more warmth, as well as how I braced the inside of the guitar, which you obviously can't see in this video, but it is braced so that around the perimeter of the guitar, it's incredibly thin and all the bracing is very thin so that we get a lot of what's called monopole vibration and we bring out a lot of the bottom end on the guitar. Once we paired the Western Red Cedar with the back and sides of the guitar and the body began to get closed up, the client asked me to give him some different binding options, and we ended up landing on this Macassar ebony binding. Bound the guitar, kind of placed it on there, and then it occurred to us that, man, we should really let the woods do all of the talking on this guitar. Don't do any colors in the finish. Don't do much pearl at all on the guitar, if any whatsoever. And I remember Eric, who's getting this guitar, had said, why don't we kind of like lean into a theme of letting it'd be different kind of looks of coffee. So you've got black coffee all the way up to coffee with a lot of creamer in it. And all of the variations of different types of browns and tans that you would get with those different types of coffee. And you'll see that theme kind of carried across the entire instrument. We ended up doing a little bit of walnut just around the inside of the ebony binding. And I just absolutely loved it so much that we carried that theme across the entire guitar. And on the end graft here, we have a little bit of walnut tied into it. We even took the walnut all around the perimeter of the fingerboard, and it's bound in that, as well as the headstock. And visually, this guitar just, to me, is one of the prettier guitars that I've built. And I love the fact that it's not just completely covered in inlays. In fact, the only inlays on this guitar are this small little logo here on the 12th fret, and we've also put that same logo down here on the lower bout of the body. And the client's last name is Byheart, aka Two Hearts. So we've put this logo that we've come up with, and it looks really cool with two hearts that are interlocked with one another. And other than that, the entire instrument, when you just look at it, kind of just speaks for itself. It's not just dripping with inlays all over it, and I just absolutely love that. And I'm having more and more customers that are asking for guitars that don't have crazy inlays on them, and it's got me super excited because I want people to be able to enjoy the guitar and not just enjoy the inlay. Just like all of the guitars that we build here, this neck is double carbon fiber reinforced. So we have a two-way truss rod down the middle, as well as two carbon rods that run right down the end of it. And what it allows us to do is to be able to make this neck the exact same thickness from the nut all the way to about the 12th fret, right where the heel starts to kick in. And the neck does have a typical taper that you would have on a guitar, but the fact that the neck doesn't get any thicker as you move up the neck makes for a very, very fast and really amazing feeling neck. And we also have our back strap on the back of the headstock, which is something that we include in all of our acoustic guitars as well, which makes it so that the headstock is actually sandwiched between these two pieces of wood. In addition to the carbon fiber rods that are in there, we should have a very, very strong headstock joint, which hopefully will mitigate any issues in the future if this guitar were, God forbid, dropped, and to prevent that headstock from snapping off. It just makes it all locked in a lot better. Plus, it just looks really, really nice having that kind of reminder of the wood that you're using on the back and sides of the guitar. It's appointed with Waverly slot head tuning machines with ebony buttons on them, and the ebony just ties in very, very, very nicely with all of the binding that's on this guitar. We have cattle bone unslotted bridge pins and cattle bone saddle, as well as a nut. There's no pickup in this guitar. It's very, very pure. There's no arm bevel. It's a guitar that I think that a lot of folks at home might see that I built and go, wow, that's not really a typical Driftwood guitar, because it doesn't have all of the inlays. It doesn't have the arm bevels. But the reality of it is, this guitar is really right up my alley. It's the guitar that I really like the most. It's simple. And the instrument does all the talking. It's an instrument that's designed to play music on and to say something. And with that, what I'd like to do is to get my microphone set up in front of the guitar and strum some chords on it so that you guys can hear how good it sounds. Okay, before we play any notes on the guitar, I do want to take just one split second to tell you guys about the signal chain so that you guys know that you can trust what you're hearing at home. As always, we're using a Zoom H6 field recorder, and we're about, 14, 15 inches from the sound hole using the XY microphones. We have no post processors on here whatsoever, no compressors, no reverb, no EQ, no nothing. It's literally going to come right out of here, out of the SD card, right into the camera so that you guys know what you're hearing is exactly what's coming out of this guitar. Obviously, listen to this with a high quality set of headphones if you have them, or a good set of speakers on your computer. If you're listening to it on an iPhone or an iPad or something like that, just know that those speakers obviously not the best, just not the best. But with that, what we'll do is I will strum all of the major chords so that you guys can get just a general sense of what those sound like, and then we'll play a few songs for you. Well, and I hope that even just doing that simple little exercise, you could get a sense of how woody this guitar sounds, especially like on that E major chord. I'm always apprehensive when I first string these guitars up. Is like, is it gonna have the thing, you know? And the thing is like I want to be able to hear the wood, right? I want to be able to hear the graininess of the wood. I want to be able to smell the sawdust in the note. And I think that this guitar has that, and it's. And obviously you guys don't know what this feels like, but the feel on this guitar, because it has that Western Red Cedar top, it just responds to such a light touch, and it's just a joy to play. With that, let me just play some of the songs that I play on all these videos, so that if you guys would like to, you can go back and compare them and A/B them to some of my previous guitars. Yeah, it's just got such a sweet sound to it. You know, it's obviously not 100% like that rosewood sound that we all associate with rosewood guitars, but it's definitely leaning into it. And in fact, if anything, I feel like it's like rosewood, but like a different sonic characteristic of it is what I hear when I hear this guitar. It's got a little bit more of the high-end trebles that you would get on a maple guitar, but with all of that warmth that you don't associate with maple because of the Western Red Cedar that's in this guitar. And I'm just really, really, really happy with it. It just sounds so nice, I think. Like, and it sounds really nice up the neck too. Just super happy with how it sounds. So that's it. To me, I think that this is how maple guitars should and can sound. So hopefully this video will help kind of change your perception of what maple guitars are capable of sounding like. If you'd like to order a guitar from us yourself, make sure you guys reach out to us and do let us know. And I hope that you guys enjoy the channel, and we'll see you in the next one.